They didn't rush it. That was the first thing Everlyn controlled. Everything in her wanted to move, to tear through the room, to break the systems apart and rip everybody free before the machine could correct again. But that was how you lost. Not to strength, to timing. She stepped back from the table, just one step, and the pack followed. Not retreating, resetting. "We don't break everything," she said quietly. Kane's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. Malek shifted once, grounding himself again. Lira didn't look away from the subject on the table. Neither did Everlyn. "We take one," Everlyn continued. "That landed, not as hesitation, but precision. Learn how it responds, then we take the rest." Across the room, the systems continued their work, uninterrupted and unaware. That was the window. Kaelen moved first, not toward the subject, toward the systems. She slipped along the outer edge of the chamber, tracing the flow she had already begun to understand. The patterns were clearer here. Feedback loops, timing sequences, correction intervals. Not random. Never random. She reached the nearest control node and paused, watching, counting, then made her move. A small disruption. Nothing visible, nothing dramatic. She delayed a correction cycle by less than a second. That was all. In the center of the room, the field holding the nearest subject flickered. Not enough to fail, enough to weaken. Everlyn felt it instantly. Now! Lira moved. Fast, not reckless. Perfect. She crossed the distance in a blur, claws cutting into the field, not breaking it, but forcing it to react. The system corrected. Too slowly. Malek stepped in, hands closing around the edge of the containment frame, muscles locking as he forced space where none should exist. The field buckled. Kane slid through the opening the moment it appeared, precise and controlled, reaching the subject before the system could collapse it again. "Easy," he muttered. Not to the system, to the person. The subject's eyes flickered, unfocused. Then, for a second, clear. Recognition. The moment hit all of them, alive, still there. For a heartbeat, the chamber disappeared. Not the tables, not the systems. Everything. The subject's eyes locked onto Kane and stayed there. Confusion came first. Then fear. Then something else. Relief. Raw and immediate. The kind that hurt to see. Because it meant they remembered. It meant whatever the Xarthians were doing hadn't finished yet. The subject's mouth moved. No sound came out. The systems had taken that, or suppressed it. Kane felt his jaw tighten. The man wasn't one of the civilians. He was one of them. One of the wolves. One from the inner pack. Kane's pack. The recognition was instinctive, shared, familiar. And suddenly the room felt much smaller. Because this wasn't a stranger on a table. This was one of theirs. Kane pulled. The body didn't resist, didn't help, just came free. As Kane pulled him clear, the rest of the wolves reacted. Not loudly, not visibly, but the shift moved through them. Hope. Dangerous hope. Across the chamber, several wolves straightened instinctively. Others stepped closer. Not enough to interfere. Enough to feel it. For the first time since capture, proof stood in front of them. The taken could come back. The process wasn't absolute. The machine wasn't invincible. Everlyn felt it spread, and immediately feared it. Hope made people reckless. Hope made people move too soon. Hope got people killed. The field snapped shut behind Kane. Hard. Too hard. The system had noticed. The chamber reacted. Not violently. Precisely. Rows of tables brightened. Correction cycles accelerated. The light moving through the suspended bodies became sharper, more aggressive. The systems weren't angry. They were learning. Everlyn watched the reaction unfold. Every adjustment, every response, every tiny correction. The machine was studying the rescue exactly the same way it studied the subjects. That realization settled coldly inside her. They hadn't just taken someone back. They had taught the system something. Across the chamber, the lights shifted. Not dimming, sharpening. Kaelen felt it through the node. "They're adjusting," she said. "No panic, just fact." Everlyn didn't hesitate. "Move." The pack didn't question it. Kane lifted the body without effort, shifting it into Malek's reach as they repositioned. Lira fell back into formation, eyes scanning for the next threat before it arrived. The wolves moved together. Across the room, the system reacted. Not violently, efficiently. The other tables sealed. Fields strengthened. Correction cycles accelerated. The machine wasn't trying to stop them. It was trying to understand what they had just done. That was worse. Kaelen pulled back from the node. "They're logging everything." Everlyn nodded once. "Good." That wasn't confidence. It was calculation. Because now the system had new data, and data could be lied to. The subject in Malek's arms shifted, barely, a breath, a twitch of fingers, alive, but unstable. Everlyn stepped closer, not touching, just present. "Stay with it," she said quietly. His eyes opened again, not fully. Enough. Recognition struggled through whatever had been done to him. His gaze moved across the room, across Kane, across Lira, across Everlyn. The moment his eyes found her, something changed. Not physically, deeper. The same instinct that connected the pack, the same thing the Xarthians couldn't measure. His breathing caught, then steadied. The reaction was small, barely visible, but every wolf in the room felt it. He knew her, and more importantly, he knew himself. Not completely. Not yet. But enough. Enough to fight. Across the chamber, the system paused. Only for a fraction. Only long enough to reevaluate. That was the second window. Everlyn saw it. Felt it. But didn't take it. Not yet. Everlyn looked around the chamber one final time. Rows, tables, bodies, humans, aliens, lives suspended between what they had been and whatever the Xarthians wanted them to become. Hundreds, maybe more. One recovered. Hundreds remaining. The weight of it settled heavily. This wasn't rescue, not yet. This was proof. Proof that the process could be interrupted. Proof that people could come back. Proof that the machine wasn't perfect. Only then did she speak. "We leave." Kane frowned slightly. "That's it. For now." That mattered, because this wasn't a rescue. It was a test, and they had their answer. They could pull someone out, but the system would adapt. Faster next time. Better. More precise. Kaelen moved back toward them. "They're already rerouting. They won't let that happen again." Everlyn looked at the rows of bodies, then at the one they had taken. One. Out of hundreds. Not enough. Not even close. But it was a start. "We didn't come here to win one fight," she said quietly. "We came here to break the process." That landed differently. Not hope, not desperation. Direction. The pack shifted, not to move faster, to move smarter. Behind them, the chamber resumed its work, uninterrupted, unconcerned. Learning. Ahead of them, the corridors opened again. And now, they knew they could take something back, even if it cost them more next time.